final wrap-up of the year. Let's see how that went. I want to start this video by giving a huge thank you to my top tier Wizard Master patrons. Thank you Nico, Aaron, Sharon, Scott, Mike, Chris, Leslie, Doug, Weistich, Twaney, Spyro, Sarah, and Chris, the real bookaholic. Thank you all so much. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew. And today we are doing the wrap up for December of 2023, bringing December to a close as well as the year. But before we get into this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow. And you can check the description box down below for links to all my social media, including the Discord, Amazon wishlist, Patreon. It's all there for you to explore. And yeah, it's been a interesting reading month, especially kind of getting ready and setting up for next year. Next year I'm planning a Read Your Shelf challenge, which is kind of affecting what I currently read this month, because I've been taste testing a lot of stuff to kind of get it out of just the shelves, because if I'm not going to enjoy reading it, then it's messing with my shelf ratio. I don't know. It makes sense in my brain. Before we get into that, of course, you know, my mental health did take a little bit of a dip, actually a fair bit of a dip this month. Unexpectedly lost one of my friends here in the community. Sharon sadly and suddenly passed. She was one of my first patrons. She was one of the first people to kind of embrace me in the community, and she was just such an amazing and loving individual, and she will be sorely, sorely missed. I've actually created, if you look on the Patreon cards on the videos, there's actually a little spot up in the corner where Sharon will sit as long as this channel is around. So I'm just kind of doing that to honor her. And yeah, she'll be greatly missed. And I really did some comfort reading this month just to kind of deal with it, because I was an absolute wreck for about a week after hearing the news, which led me to reading some. Hold on, I've got stuff written down, which actually led me to reading some really interesting stuff. Something I think she would have approved of is I reached for an old romantasy series that I used to really enjoy by Ilona Andrews, which is The Hidden Legacy. And the book I read, and yeah, you can make fun of me all you want, but here's the cover. And I believe it's Ruby Fever by Ilona Andrews, which is number 6. And yeah, take the cover in. It's gorgeous. I love this series. It did feel a bit rushed. I gave it 4 stars. We were just kind of resolving some things within the story. I didn't remember everything, but I remembered enough to really kind of appreciate what this was. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how they're doing, this was their last traditional, like, contracted book, and then they moved into the indie kind of sphere, and so they're now self-publishing, which is great. But I don't know if they're going to be able to continue this series. I don't know if they have the rights to continue the 3rd planned trilogy, which I would very much like to read, but I did reach for that as a comfort read. Also comforting, I reached for The Engineer by Will White, which I hadn't planned to read this until 2024, and I moved it up because, you know, a Will White book is always something that's going to make me feel pretty good. And so I reached for that. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, no, it's a series that continues to surprise. One of the things that I was really concerned about was if we went from the captain to the engineer, that we were going to have a POV shift. And that was not the case, which was a huge relief and weight off my mind, because I wanted to stay with Varric Valinar, and we did. So I thought that was particularly cool. I also read Collation Saga book number 3, The Gloves of Aons by Andrew D. Meredith. Again, this one was another 4-star read. Noble Bride Fantasy. And it's so incredibly good. If you like that kind of classical sort of fantasy, there's nobody in the game doing it better than Andrew D. Meredith. And then I did some other digital reads. We did The Last Echo of the Lord of Bells, which was closed out the Mage Aaron series. I think it wasn't my favorite series conclusion, but it was a solid series conclusion. I was very happy with where the story ended. It's left a little open-ended. I don't know if John Bierce is planning on coming back to this universe, but I wouldn't be mad if he did. I would love to see what Hugh and the gang kind of grow into as time goes on. I think that would be really, really, really cool. And then there was a challenge to make the mods read on the Wizards Enclave Discord. And I was supposed to do Kingdoms of Death by Christopher Rocchio. I did The Lesser Devil by Christopher Rocchio instead. So instead of doing book 4 in Sun Eater, I did book 1.5. And I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a good exploration on religion and culture and how that kind of survives post-Earth and post-spacefaring civilization. And it was very, very cool. It was good to come back to see what Crispin had kind of been up to. I really, really enjoyed it. And then I also read, back to physical books, I read Sea of Rust by C. Robert Cargill. This one was amazing. This immediately rocketed into one of my favorite reads of the year. It's post-apocalyptic. The robots overthrew humanity. And then when they did that, they all of a sudden, like, the artificial intelligence embraced its own humanity. So the robots read very human and very flawed in this series. And it's just like they're fighting for survival because now they're at war with themselves and parts are becoming scarce and hard to find. And people are like scavenging off of dying bots. It's fantastic. It's full of so many big ideas. This one was amazing. It was really, really good read. Then I did Arc of Ascension by Michael R. School Thesis. This follows Vela. Vela, have I said that right? Evalla. Vela. She is basically this ex-military operative who has become a bounty hunter. She wanted out of the life. She basically goes and gets people who have skipped on bail, and then she gets kind of word from her estranged uncle who had been sent to prison for past crimes that her sister is in trouble and she has to go home where she's not exactly welcome. So this was a very, very, very entertaining, very quick read that I was able to blast through really quickly. This is mission 1 of Huntress for Hire, and arguably one of my favorite covers. The pink and purple is really working for me. I just love that kind of look back here. That is awesome. And a new favorite series, or at least something I'm anticipating to be a new favorite series, is The Legend of Eli Monpress. I read the first book here, right here, The Spirit Thief. I'll be reading book 2 probably in January. I think book 2 will be in January. And oh my gosh, this is like you take Michael J. Sullivan and Scott Lynch and you cram the styles together with all the best bits, leaving out the stuff that I don't like from those particular authors, and you get this. It was so incredibly good. It was entertaining, it was witty, it was funny, it was my kind of humor. If you want to know what my sense of humor is, Eli Monpress is my sense of humor. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And probably one of the reasons I loved the Sea of Rust so much is I read the Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury this month. And I kind of inserted Sea of Rust as if, what if there were robots on Earth during the wars that are going on within the Martian Chronicles? And that just kind of elevated the reading experience for me. And I liked that. I really enjoyed the Martian Chronicles. It's this kind of silver or golden age kind of sci-fi where it's all about the ideas. All of the science has been debunked. None of it works. But at the same time, the ideas were so massive and entertaining. I really, really enjoyed reading the Martian Chronicles. That was a stellar read. And then, of course, I did the second sect of 1,000 Li, and this is book 5 by Tao Wong in 1,000 Li. I've said that very, very strangely. I do apologize. But this one, we're kind of dealing with Wu Ying recovering from an injury that he kind of got in the previous book, and he's trying to find out a way to kind of move forward in his cultivation journey. It's very good. We get to kind of explore more relationships. There's a very funny scene in here where Wu Ying gets himself into a little bit of hot water, and it's kind of entertaining to see how he gets himself out of that. But overall, the dark sect continues to be an issue for Wu Ying, and it's a really, really good read. That's everything that I finished. I'm also 50% through the 5th Wandering In book, and because of the Read My Shelf challenge, I will be slowing down on Wandering In, and instead each book is going to be getting cut in half. So I read the first 50% of book 5 in December. Second 50% is going to be read in January, and then that is kind of the formula going forward while I continue to embrace this Read Your Shelf challenge to kind of show some love to the books that are physically on my shelf. But of course, Wandering Inn does not have physical releases, although this year there probably is going to be a Kickstarter, I think, for the first book that is planned, and I will be 100% adding that to my shelf. But yeah. And then we're going to kind of, there's a couple things before I move on of what I'm currently reading, because these are books that are not going to be finished before the end of the month, or the year, I should say. And that is Blight of Black Wings by Kevin Hearn. You haven't seen me haul this book. This literally showed up and I immediately started reading it because I started this series 2 years ago and I never continued the series. And I started it today and I'm having an absolute blast with this. I love the Seven Kennings. Kevin Hearn just really knows how to write. So I'm enjoying this one. That will take me into January. And then I have picked up another Noble Bright author by Mark Howard, and this is Godfrey Under Siege. I read Godfrey's Crusade, I think either earlier this year or late last year, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I always intended to come back to it, and then I was like kind of looking at my shelves for the Read My Shelf challenge, and I was like, why haven't I reached for that yet? And so I did. I'm currently 16% through this one, and I'm having a great time with it. So I hope to have this one done in January as well. And then we're going on to the DNFs. So normally I don't do DNFs, but we are going to be doing a few here because this is part of the Read My Shelf challenge, and I wanted to taste test a bunch of books to see if it was worth having them on my shelf or if I was just going to end up DNFing these anyway. Y'all know me. Y'all know I like to DNF. Well, I guess I don't like to DNF. You just know that I will DNF like that. And that happened with the Nemesis games by James S.A. Corey. Now, before you yell at me, I thought that this was the best Expanse book to date. It was so incredibly good. However, I just have a problem with all of the villains and everybody in the Expanse just being crazy. Like, they're just absolutely out of their gourd nuts. It doesn't make any sense. Why are we giving these people all this sort of power? They're obviously, like, it's like the universe is full of cult leaders in the Expanse, and it's aggravating to me. And I saw the story going in a direction that I wasn't going to be happy with. Essentially, I could be remembering this wrong, and feel free to let me know in the comments, but one of the crew members gets kind of like a retcon pass to give her a more tragic backstory, and it didn't seem to fit with the characterization of what I knew that character of. And then, like, stuff starts happening, and I just pulled the ripcord. I was like, you know what? Before I get mad, I'm not even gonna read this. So I made it about 40% through Nemesis games, but before that started happening, I was having a fantastic time. I loved learning about Amos's and the pilot. Oh, the pilot's name is escaping me, but he went home to kind of explore his backstory, and they meet back up with Bobby. I thought that this was all really good stuff, but post that, I noticed it was going to go into a direction that I just wasn't happy with at all. And then I had 4 more very quick DNFs, and I'll just kind of talk about them very briefly. We've got The Adventures of Amina El Sarafi. This one was kind of like, it was very hyped up when it initially released, and then people stopped talking about it, and that should have been an indicator of what I was going to feel, because I started it, and it's just a mechanic that's not quite for me. Essentially, it's like it's breaking the fourth wall, because Amina is like being a biographer and like saying that's not my style, and then she'll be talking to you, the reader, and then she'll stop what she's doing, and on the page she'll go and turn around and yell at somebody, and that's in text, and then she'll turn back and she'll start, and I just didn't really like that mechanic, and so I just kind of pulled the ripcord on that one as well. And then this one really hurts, because this is the sequel to my 2022 book of the year. This is The Cruel Gods by Trudy Skies, specifically Children of Chaos. And the first chapter was amazing. The second chapter, one of the antagonists that kind of shows up towards the end of the first book, is got their own dedicated POV now. And they've got a foul mouth to the point where, like, it was like they cussed like 10 to 15 times in their first POV chapter, and it felt YA, kind of edgy edgelord, and I just didn't feel like that fit the series. And it didn't really mesh well with the other POVs. It just was kind of childish, which I guess is the point of this character. But the language just kind of didn't work for me. And so, unfortunately, that one's not for me either. I won't be continuing the series. And then Steal the Sky by Megan E. O'Keefe. And this one is on here because, or this one's on my shelf. I picked it up at Half Price Books years ago because it mentioned, like, it had like Firefly vibes. There we go. It's like an epic steampunk Firefly. And in the first like 2 chapters, they're talking about somebody who died in a inventive way where they filled him up with like some gas and he floated to the ceiling. The only reason he was able to float is they plugged up all of his orifices. And I was like, no thanks. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I don't know. It was just a quick ripcord pull. And then, of course, Among Thieves by M.J. Kuhn. This is the second time I've DNF'd this book. I rebought it because it was a pretty edition. I shouldn't have done that. And it's just not my thing. The Butcher, what's her name again? I only read the first chapter. Raya the Butcher. I don't like her characterization. I don't like her attitude. I don't like her whole demeanor. She's kind of this edgy, dark sort of protagonist who's got like a mean streak in her, and it's just like, okay, that doesn't sound like anything I want to read. It doesn't sound like she's going to have any redeeming qualities. So after the first chapter, I pulled the ripcord on that one as well. But that should be my wrap up for December and for 2023. It's been a good reading year. I hit about 150 books this year. I will be able to release some more stats once Goodreads tells me those stats, which it will tell me in about a day or so. But yeah, no, it's been a good reading year. I've had a lot of fun. I didn't finish as many series as I wanted to this year. Only did about 6 series in total. And I'll try and do better next year. In fact, if this Read the Shelf Challenge goes off pretty well, I have the potential to finish 7 series and in the first quarter of 2024, which will be more than all of 2023, which is mind-boggling. But that's all I've really got for you today, guys. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a great December. I hope you had an amazing Christmas. Till next time, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my passion and my hobby.